Simply look for a special item I require, Toth said. You'll find it somewhere in the final resting place of the greatest musician who ever lived. Good luck! With a snap of his fingers, a portal opened underneath the siblings' feet, and they fell through, landing in front of a large white mansion. Ow! I thought portals weren't supposed to work when the Demon Day started, Sadie complained. Well, he is a god, so maybe he has certain advantages that magicians don't, Carter suggested. Then he just noticed the mansion and immediately recognized it. Ah, dang it, you gotta be kidding me, he said. What? Carter, what is it? Sadie asked. Whose house is this? No one actually died here, did they? Afraid so, he answered. Toth did say we would find what he needs in the final resting place of the greatest musician that ever lived, and here we are. No way! You're telling me Freddie Mercury lived here? Sadie asked excitedly. What? No, not him. Elvis. Elvis Presley, said Carter. The chap with the Tibet hair and white jumpsuits? Seriously? Sadie asked. Unless you know another one, Carter said. But yeah, this is where he lived and also where he died. Someone thought it was a good idea to bury him in the backyard and then turn the place into a tourist trap. So much for respect for the dead, huh? Maybe whatever we're looking for is in the gravesite, he suggested. Come on, let's go check. As they climbed the steps and were about to try the door, bam! Carter was shot. Carter! Sadie cried. But for some reason, Carter wasn't wounded. Instead, he had been transformed into a small reptile. Carter? She wondered. Bam! Another shot was fired, but this time it blasted the door. Then Sadie finally saw from out of the bushes where the shots came from. The one who was shooting was a man dressed in overalls and a cowboy hat. Next to him was another man wearing denim and a bandana on his head and carrying a baseball bat. Nice one, Jared, said the bandana man. Thanks, Wade, said the cowboy. Sadie snatched up Lizard Carter, kicked the broken door open, and ran inside. She raced through the living room, down the hall, and into the trophy room. She didn't really have a plan. She just wanted to get away from those guys, but now she was cornered. If Carter was concentrating on changing himself back, he didn't give any sign. She wished she knew a spell for changing him back, but the only spell she had learned so far was a fire spell, and she was not going to risk that indoors. Let me take over, Isis said in Sadie's mind. I shall burn our enemies to ash. Shut up, Sadie argued. I'm not using fire on anyone. She was running out of time. She heard more gunshots. Those men were coming. Then, she just noticed the jumpsuits in the display cases were all standing in a strange position. The suits were leaning forward in Sadie's direction, and she was sure they did not look like that when she entered the room. If suits had faces, they were probably looking at Sadie. She suddenly remembered some advice that Zia had given her. Just use whatever you have available. Then she realized they were waiting for orders. "Ha-ha, there you are, girlie," one of the men shouted. "They're attacking your master's house! Defend it!" Sadie told the suits. They broke out of their cases and attacked Wayne and Jared. They pushed them both out the window, leading into the backyard. So Elvis was a magician, Sadie thought. How about that? While the men were distracted, Sadie looked at Lizard Carter. "Come on, Carter, come back to me," she begged. She closed her eyes and pictured Carter the way she remembered, an annoying, badly dressed 14-year-old boy. A second later, Carter changed back. "Whoa, how'd you do that?" he asked. "I don't know, you just seemed wrong," she said. "Thanks," he said sarcastically. Bam! Out the window, another gunshot was fired. The kids hated to imagine the suits actually murdered those two guys, because that's exactly what it looked like. Jared looked like he was shot in the face, while Wayne's head seemed to be bashed by his own bat. But what didn't add up was that there was no blood anywhere. Where there should have been blood, their wounds were filled with what looked like dust or sand. Then their bodies cracked and were blown away like dust in the wind. A second after that, a small ball of light popped out from each of the bodies and flew into the sky. "They're Shakti," Carter said. "This whole time they were like training dummies. It must have been part of the test." "What? No, that can't be," Sadie said. "They turn you into a lizard. They used magic." "I think those balls of light were probably the magic that animated them," Carter suggested. "Like a recording for their master," Sadie guessed, "returning to report what they did." But she didn't get an answer, and she failed to notice Carter had already headed down the path that led to Elvis's grave. Then Carter just noticed something that didn't seem to belong there. Laying on the edge of the grave was a small sheet of papyrus. It was just an Egyptian-style drawing of a cat attacking a snake with a knife. In one corner, written in black marker and English letters, Carter read, "Keep up the fight." "That's vandalism, isn't it? Ruining an ancient drawing like that?" Sadie guessed. "Yeah, but doesn't this look familiar to you?" Carter asked. She looked closer at the drawing and saw that he was right. She was immediately reminded about her conversation with Nut. "Is that Apophis, the Chaos Snake?" she asked Carter. "Yeah," he said. "Impressive." Apophis was supposed to be worse than Set, and Egyptians thought Doomsday would come when Apophis ate the sun, Carter explained. Ra ordered that cat to kill him however many times it took. I asked Dad who the cat was, and no one knows for sure, but some think it's Sekhmet, the Eye of Ra, because he always asked her to kill his enemies for him. "But now that I see it here," Carter continued, "it looks like some other cat goddess, possibly one we might know." Sadie looked at the drawing again, and just then she realized that cat looked a lot like Muffin. "Lost?" she wondered. Just then, a portal opened up in front of them, and they both guessed that was their cue to go. "Come on," Sadie said. "Let's go so I can go slug Toth in the beak." When they jumped through, they weren't back in the university. Instead, they stood in front of a large glass and metal pyramid. Toth was just sitting there tuning his guitar, with Khufu next to him. "Hey, you made it," he said. "Excellent." "I hope you're happy," Sadie argued. "We almost got murdered back there." "Yes, well, I couldn't allow you to beat up real magicians," Toth explained. "Shakti make excellent stunt doubles. It's a shame I had to let you break them. They were some of my best ones in centuries." He held out his hand, and 2 tiny balls of light hovered in his palm. The kids didn't even have to guess that those were the same balls of light they saw pop out of the broken Shakti. "As you may have already guessed, these are my recording devices," Toth explained. "They reported everything and confirmed that your test was a success." "I knew it!" Sadie exclaimed. "You did well, Sadie Kane," said Toth. "You went with your own plans rather than letting Isis do it for you. And you, Carter, did pretty well getting turned into a lizard." "Huh?" "The point of the lesson for you, that is," Toth explained, "is that you will find enemies where you least expect, but you'll also find friends where you least expect along the way. A good thing to keep in mind if you ever cross paths with the House of Life again." For a second, Carter wondered if he meant Zia, but then he thought, nah, this ain't no fairy tale. "Anyway, can you explain this?" he asked Toth, showing him the drawing. "Does this have anything to do with our mom's death?" "That's a cat and a snake," Toth said sarcastically. "Answer the question, Jehooty," Sadie growled. "We had a deal." "You know, I just so happen to like that name," Toth said, "but not so much as when it comes out of your mouth, young lady. And as I recall, the deal was to explain my spell book, if I may." Without another word, the book floated out of Carter's bag and into Toth's hands. Given he was a god, he finished every page in just seconds. Then he explained to them how the book contained the right incantation to destroy Set. It wouldn't destroy him forever, but it would banish him deep into the Duat, and he wouldn't be able to reform back into the mortal world for a long time. It won't work for you two until you're actually in his presence, Toth continued. Once you find him, Sadie must recite the incantation to set. And what, I'm just supposed to sit... He's just supposed to sit there quietly as I read him to death? Sadie asked. I didn't say it'd be easy, Toth said. For that, you'll require 2 things. First, you need to learn to speak Set's secret name. Great, and how are we supposed to know that? Sadie asked. There's only one person in particular who would have that info and be willing to share it, Toth answered. The only person who could teach you how to speak it properly would be someone close to Set, someone close to his heart. But no one loves Set, Sadie said. He's the god of evil. No, said Carter. At least one person would. His wife, the river goddess. Nitfis, Toth finished. The best place to find her would be a river, of course. It wouldn't be the first time she had to betray him for order and balance sake. I'm sure she'd be willing to share the info you need. The second thing you require would be the Feather of Truth. The what? Sadie asked. Honestly, don't kids go to school anymore? Toth wondered. Sadie, in ancient Egypt, when you died, you would have to take a dangerous journey through the land of the dead, Carter explained. Then you would be judged by Anubis, the funeral god, in the Hall of Judgment. Your life would be weighed on a scale, your heart on one end and the feather on the other. If you passed the test, you'd be blessed with eternal happiness. If you failed, a meat the devourer would eat your heart, destroying your entire existence. And I don't suppose there's a way to get there without dying? Sadie asked Toth. Not from me, no, Toth said, but I believe Boss has just found a new ride to get you there. She has it waiting for you just over there at the river. Oh, and Khufu says he'd like to go with you. With no time to lose, the Kane siblings ran in the direction Toth pointed, with Khufu right behind them. Around the corner, beyond the sidewalk, just on the riverbank, they saw Bost. She was standing on an old-fashioned paddle-wheel steamboat. She front-flipped her way down to them and said, I told you I'd get us a ride. Say hello to the Egyptian Queen. What? Where? How? Carter blurted. Long story, Boss said. I'll explain more about it later. I don't like the water, but Toth mentioned the details to me earlier about where you needed to go. For now, who wants to meet the captain? She led them to the control deck, and standing at the steering wheel was someone that brought back Carter's horrible nightmares. Ah! A demon! He cried. Oh, it's all right, Carter. No need to be scared. He's with us, Boss said. He's under your command. What? You could say he belongs to your family, Boss explained. Your father and mother called him Blood-Stained Blade, and they've summoned this boat at least once or twice before. Carter looked at the demon. He was dressed in a captain's uniform and matching gloves so that you couldn't see his hands. Where his head should have been was a big double-bladed battle axe. Carter could guess where he got his name from by looking at the dark red stains on his blade, though he did not want to know where those stains had come from. A voice came out from the front blade. When the demon spoke, he sounded like he was in some sort of mood. Such an honor to serve your family again, Lord and Lady Kane, the demon said. What are your orders? He takes orders from us? Sadie asked. You haven't told them yet? The demon asked Bost. Tell us what? Sadie asked. Oh, that he takes your orders within reason, Bost rushed. The boat can only be summoned once every year, and when you're in great need of it. Also, it's best not to keep him waiting for orders. Carter wasn't sure why she seemed uneasy, but he went ahead and asked the demon to take them to the Hall of Judgment. The demon bowed in agreement, thankfully without beheading anyone, and said, As you wish, my lord. In the meantime, will you dine while you wait? Carter only just realized how hungry he'd been and said, yeah, sure, that'd be great.